There is a version of grief that makes you easy to steal from. Not because you're careless, because you are present in a way you have never been present before, entirely consumed by one thing, and everything else falls outside your attention. You sit across from someone who speaks quietly about caskets, about linings, about handles, about the difference between a mahogany veneer and solid mahogany, and why it matters. And you nod, because the person speaking to you is the professional, and you are not there to learn about wood grain. You are there because someone you loved is gone. You signed what they put in front of you. You pay what they ask, and 3 days later you stand at a grave and you do not think about what is inside the box. Why would you? My name is Daniel Rowe. In 9 years of investigating fraud, I have found people stealing from companies, from insurers, from business partners, from the government. This was the first time I found someone stealing from the dead. The referral came through a funeral industry trade association in Chicago, an unusual channel. But funeral homes are small businesses, most of them family-owned, most of them without the legal or investigative resources that larger companies take for granted. When something goes wrong inside one, the options are limited. The client was a man named Robert Almeida. He owned Almeida Family Funerals, a group of 4 funeral homes operating across the northern suburbs of Chicago. His father had started the first one 43 years ago. Robert had grown it to 4 locations over the last 15 years. The kind of business built on a family name and a community reputation that takes decades to earn and very little to destroy. He was in his mid-50s, quiet and deliberate, with the particular stillness of someone who has spent their career being the calm person in the room when everyone else cannot be. He sat across from me and said something I hadn't heard before in this line of work. "I'm not entirely sure what I'm asking you to look at. I have a feeling. I don't have evidence, and I'm aware that a feeling in a business like mine is not the same thing as a problem. Tell me about the feeling." I have a general manager, Gary Stoll. He has worked for me for 9 years. He runs data bean operations across all 4 locations. Staffing, supplier relationships, casket inventory, the arrangement meetings, everything that isn't the service itself. And what is the feeling about Gary? 6 months ago, I was at our Northbrook location for a service. A family I knew personally, longtime clients. The patriarch had passed. The family had purchased a casket I knew from the arrangement, a Batesville Promethean, a premium model, $4,200 retail. I helped carry it to the hearse. It was lighter than it should have been. Lighter. A Promethean weighs about 140 pounds empty. This one felt closer to 90. The construction is specific. I've handled hundreds of them. It felt wrong. He said that evenly, not with accusation, with the measured certainty of a man who has been carrying caskets for 30 years and knows exactly what they weigh. Did you investigate at the time? I looked at the purchase order. A Promethean was ordered. A Promethean was invoiced. The serial number matched. I had no way to open the casket and verify the interior without disturbing the burial, so I let it go. And then I started noticing other things. What other things? Our premium casket purchases have been increasing year over year. Gary attributes it to better upselling, families choosing higher-end products. But our profit margins on casket sales haven't moved proportionally. More premium sales. Flat margin for 2 years. Revenue growing. Margin flat, a casket that felt too light. I told Robert I'd need to come in as a new member of his operations team. Someone Gary would train, someone who'd learn the business from the inside, starting with procurement and inventory. He agreed. Then he paused and said something that stayed with me. "Whatever you find, I need you to understand that these are families who trusted us with the worst moment of their lives. Whatever Gary did or didn't do, they must never know." I understood what he was asking, and I understood why, and I told him nothing that I couldn't promise. This time, my name was Daniel Webb, funeral home procurement consultant, background in supply chain optimization for independent funeral groups, helping small operators reduce cost on caskets, urns, embalming supplies, fleet maintenance, the kind of person whose entire professional existence is about the gap between what things cost to buy and what families are charged for them. Gary Stoll met me at the flagship location in Northbrook. He was 53, heavy-set, unhurried, with the manner of a man who has spent a career being trusted with difficult things and has found a way to be comfortable in the weight of that. He was good with people. Warm, direct, quietly competent, the kind of funeral director families remember positively at the worst moment of their lives. He showed me the facility top to bottom, the arrangement room where families came to make decisions, the preparation room, the casket display floor, the storage area where inventory was kept. He explained every process with patience, answering my procurement questions thoroughly and without hesitation. What I was watching for wasn't in what he said. It was in the architecture of how things moved. In a funeral home, there are 2 distinct flows. The first is the family flow, the arrangement meeting, the selection, the paperwork, the service. This is the visible part. the part families experience. The second is the operational flow, the delivery of product from supplier, the preparation of the deceased, the placement of the body in the selected casket. This is the invisible part. No family member is present. No family member sees it. The casket is closed before anyone outside the funeral home is in the room. The family selects a casket in the showroom. That selection goes to Gary. Gary orders the product from the supplier. Gary receives the delivery. Gary oversees the preparation. Gary controls every step between what the family chose and what goes into the ground. And Robert Almeida, the owner, was almost never present for the preparation stage. He attended services, he met with families, but the operational back end was Gary's domain. Had been for 9 years. By end of day 1, I had the structure. What I needed now were the numbers. The casket showroom at Almeida's Northbrook location held 34 models, arranged in a deliberate sequence, from the most modest at one end to the most premium at the other, entry level. A basic cloth-covered fiberboard model at $890. Top of the range, a solid bronze Batesville Millennia at $11,400. Every model in between representing a specific price point, a specific set of materials, a specific promise to a family about what their loved one deserved. Gary explained the selection process to me the way he would explain it to any new staff member. Families come in, they walk through the showroom. They are guided by an arranger, always Gary himself for larger services, who helps them understand the differences. They make a choice. The choice is recorded on the arrangement contract. The contract specifies the model name, the manufacturer, the interior color, the family signs, the family pays. What happens after the family signs? The arrangement contract comes to me. I check our inventory. We keep several of the most popular models in stock. If we have it, it goes to the prep room. If we don't, I place an order with Batesville or Matthews and it's delivered within 24 hours. And who receives the delivery? I do, usually, or one of the prep staff under my supervision. And the preparation, placing the deceased in the caskets, who oversees that? That's always me or my senior prep director. It's a sensitive step. We take it seriously. I spent the next 2 days mapping the casket models in the showroom against the manufacturer's specifications. Weight, dimensions, interior measurements, distinguishing construction features. I was building a reference library so that when I looked at what was ordered and what was used, I would know if they were the same thing. There were 3 models clustered in the upper middle price range, between $2,000 and $4,000, that shared a similar exterior aesthetic. Brushed silver hardware, similar color range, similar profile. Visually close enough that most people, in the grief and ceremony of a viewing or a service, would not distinguish them. But the weights were different, the construction was different. The price difference between the 3 ranged from $1,100 to $1,700. That cluster was where I started looking. On day 5, I got access to the procurement records, the full procurement history from Batesville and Matthews, Almeida's 2 primary casket suppliers, going back 24 months. This was my reason for being there. A procurement consultant needs procurement records. Gary handed them over without pause. I also requested the arrangement contracts for the same period. The documents families signed specifying which casket they had selected. Robert provided those from the main office, without going through Gary. 2 data sets. What families selected and paid for. What Gary ordered from suppliers. I cross-referenced them over 3 days. 214 services across all 4 locations in 24 months. For 161 of them, the match was clean. Family selected a model. Gary ordered that model. Delivered confirmed. Service conducted. Or 53 of them, the match was not clean. 53 services where the arrangement contract specified one model and a purchase order showed a different model being ordered. In every single case, the ordered model was less expensive than the selected model. In every single case, it was from the same visual cluster, similar enough that a family at a viewing would not know the difference. The average price difference, $1,400. 53 services, $74,200 in 2 years across 4 locations, but that was only the caskets. I pulled the urn records next. Cremation services have been growing as a share of Almeida's business, now nearly 40% of all services. Urns carried significant margins. A premium hand-cast bronze urn retailed to families at $800 to $1,400. Wholesale cost was a fraction of that. The pattern repeated. Families selecting premium urns at the arrangement meeting. Purchase orders showing standard ceramic urns at $60 to $90 wholesale being received instead. The urns were even harder to verify in the caskets. They were sealed. They looked similar from the outside. They went home with families and were placed on mantelpieces or buried in gardens or kept in private rooms where no one would ever examine them closely. Combined, caskets and urns, across 24 months, the discrepancy totaled approximately $112,000. But purchase holders can have errors. Wrong models delivered, substitutions made in good faith when the correct model was out of stock. I needed to establish that Gary knew, that Gary decided, and that the money went to Gary. The hardest part of this case was the families. I needed to verify that what was delivered to the services was not what the families had selected. The only people who could tell me that were the families themselves, and approaching a grieving family to ask whether their loved one's casket was the one they paid for is not something you do without understanding exactly what you're asking them to carry. Robert Almeida understood this. He agreed that families should not be contacted unless it was absolutely necessary, and only in a way that protected them from knowing what the contact was really about. Instead, I looked for physical records. Funeral homes photographed the prepared casket before every service, not always routinely, but for quality assurance purposes.
many do, I asked Gary whether Almeida had such a practice. We photographed the arrangement for our records, standard practice, mostly for our own reference if families that have any questions. I requested access to those photographs as part of the procurement review. I needed to verify that the products received matched what was documented in the purchase orders, and routine audit step. Gary provided access to the photo archive. I worked through the 53 flagged services. For 41 of them, photographs existed. I compared each photograph against the manufacturer's specification sheets I'd compiled during the showroom analysis. Handle profile, corner bracket style, interior lining texture, panel seam placement. Details most people would never notice. Details that are different between a $2,000 casket and a $3,400 casket, and details that are documented in manufacturer's catalogs because they're the differences that justify the price. In 31 of the 41 photographs, the casket in the image did not match the model specified on the arrangement contract. In every case, the casket in the photograph matched the less expensive model that appeared on the purchase order. It wasn't an ordering error. It wasn't a supplier substitution. Gary was ordering